Good evening, everybody. This is Casper from the Tropical Weather Threat Society bringing you our nightly update. Hope y'all enjoyed Kylie last night. That was fun. That really was. I enjoyed that. Having her back for a night that made my night for sure. Made Dad smile. So let's get into the tropics here. Now, I know that we've got an area of interest out here into the tropical Atlantic, but I do want, and I am going to mention, that we do have an area of low pressure out here off the East Coast. It is non tropical and is going to be moving away from land. So, just so everybody does know that yes, there is an area of spin here, but it is non tropical. And then we have the reemergence of Tropical Storm Marco back from the dead. And obviously, we will talk about our highlighted area of interest out here in the Atlantic. So, let's go ahead and jump into it all here. As of this afternoon, 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, we currently have a 20% chance of development over the next 48 hours and a 70% chance of development over the next 7 days. Anywhere within this hatched or highlighted area. Now, development, obviously, we're at 20% now. It is expected maybe a little bit later on in the week where it really has good developmental conditions. But we're just going to have to wait and see. It does have some dry air associated with it. Now, here, what we have here is the surface analysis from the National Hurricane Center from this morning. And I just want to highlight the fact that, yes, this is our highlighted area of interest located here on this particular tropical wave. But please keep in mind that the basin also has other waves that we don't have any type of development on. And more waves will continue to come off of the coast of Africa as we go through the upcoming few weeks. It is not necessarily, we have to watch all of these as they propagate across due to the fact that developmental conditions might not be favorable out here, but later on, the developmental conditions might get a little bit more favorable over here. So there's some signals that are starting to show up in the ensembles that we'll go over here in just a moment. So let's start with those ensembles. So here we have the European ensembles. This is the physics-based model, not AI. This is the legacy Euro. As you can see, we have this pushed out 10 days. We're going to drop it back to 7. And note that we have our current highlighted area of interest, which would be Gabrielle at this time, as far as the models are concerned. It's out here wide open into the open waters of the Atlantic. Just a few of them potentially threaten Bermuda, so they will have to keep an eye on it. But there is also a grouping here of our ensemble members that are in this particular kind of cluster at this rate, and they're headed this way. Now, that doesn't mean that we are going to see U.S. impacts. As you could see, we would still have our East Coast troughing in place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this out to day 11. And as you could see, day 12, we are in La La Land by this point. But day 11, day 12, as you could see, those westerly tracks did turn back to the north and out to the northeast. So we're not necessarily looking at a large threat with this upcoming wave. Hopefully it stays that way. Folks in the Northeast Caribbean, you still need to monitor this, and especially the folks up there in Bermuda. Now, if we take a look down here with the Euro, well, we don't have a lot for potential development down here into the Western Caribbean and Gulf, but If we flip this over to the Euro AI, it's a little bit of a different signal. And it's something that I do want to highlight here tonight. As you can see, we have our current area of interest moving out this way. Maybe a couple of them try to break out and head further to the west. We'll go out to day 11, day 12 here in a second. We do have just three here, so this is kind of not really much to worry about. But what has caught my eye here today and has been kind of getting a little bit more of a signal is this particular feature right here, creeping into the Caribbean on the 24th. Now, is this certainly not a guarantee by any means, but if we were to get something in this region, we all need to be on high alert. Obviously, it's still way out far into the models. Its Euro legacy does not agree at 10-day. The AI is hinting at potentially something, and one of those waves that we were talking about creeping in and then finding a more better and conducive environment for development later on as it is getting further and further across the basin. So it's nothing right now. It's just something to say, hey, okay, maybe we're going to watch and see if this signal continues to develop or continues to remain there. Maybe, maybe it completely disappears in the next couple runs. As we could see, coming back to the 6Z, the 0Z, there are a few there. It's not a lot, but it's just something to keep in mind as we get further and further into September. These tropical waves that are coming across the basin, they may not develop early. They may not develop, anywhere across the main development region here of the tropical Atlantic. They may wait to get into the Caribbean before they find a better environment. So that would get it away from the upper level lows and all of that dry air that is out there over the tropical Atlantic. We're getting into that time of the season. So it's just something to, be aware of. And, obviously we'll be here the entire time monitoring it. And obviously we've seen the signal here tonight and over the last few runs and have brought it to everybody's attention. It is certainly not a guarantee, not by any stage of the game. It is not a forecast, nothing. It is just something that has appeared on the models, and we're wanting to relay that as something to potentially monitor over the coming days. And as we could see, and comparing it all with the GEFS isn't necessarily in agreement with the Euro AI either. So as you can see, we run this forward, we get it out to 10 days. There's those 1-2 lines coming up from the Western Caribbean, which is expected. All the other models are showing 1-2 line, in sequential probabilities at that point, under 10%. So it's obviously something could always spin up if in the Western Caribbean this time of the year, if given the proper environment and conditions. But you're looking at 4-6%, whatever. So until we get a more cohesive signal like you see out here into the Central Atlantic, okay, there'll be a couple lines here and there, run after run. But as we can also see with the GEFS, we don't really have much other than our area of interest now out here into the Atlantic. But we're still going to have to watch all of these waves as they propagate through. And if we compare it all to the Google DeepMind, we're going to zoom in on the Atlantic here. And I really, really appreciate the folks over there at Google creating this model for us. So we're out 5 days, and we will highlight our area of interest and our cluster. Yes, we have that one line that pretty much brings it right to my front door. But you're, like I said, you're always going to have that one outlier line, two outlier lines. These represent 2% probabilities. As you could see, the majority of the guidance wants to turn it up and out. But look who sits in the middle, our friends out here in Bermuda. So definitely need to keep a watch on this for those folks. And then if we come down here to our friends here into the northeastern portions of the Caribbean, getting into the Leeward Islands, the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, and Dominican Republic, Turks and Caicos, all those folks down there. As you can see, a lot of the guidance really wants to keep it away. So it is, potentially we will avoid another Aaron scenario where we get indirect impacts here and be more of like a Fernan at that point, if you guys remember that from a couple weeks ago. So now I'm going to run this forward and we're going to take this out and we're going to get it to day 8. Yeah, let's go day 8, where we get this extra cluster. Now, this would be another wave that's behind it. And as you could see, if this thing were to develop, it is going to want to turn out to the north. The question is, what happens if it doesn't develop? What happens if it doesn't get any cohesive signal to it? What that would then do is propagate across the basin like all the other waves that don't get any attention or talked about. And now, if we run this out, we get it out to about day 10, day 11. As you could see, maybe 1, 2 little spots out here, but nothing too overly concerning with a cluster. And as you can see with Tropical Storm Mario out there in the Eastern Pacific, we'll talk about that real quick. The Google DeepMind does have a couple potentially bending it back. No, that's the next wave that we'll talk about here in just a moment. As you can see, there is that is not Tropical Storm Mario. I misspoke there, and as we could see a little something. And before I leave Google DeepMind, when I'll be back, we're definitely going to talk about this one right here for our friends out there in the Philippines. No, I don't like the looks of that one at all. All right, let me jump in here. Let me check. All right, we don't have any questions. If you guys got any questions, please feel free. Let me know. Just drop them in the chat. All right, now what we're looking at here is our Euro and GFS. We've got the Euro on the left, the GFS on the right. This graphic represents the 850 millibar relative vorticity. That is approximately 1 mile above the ocean surface, as you can see right here with this graphic denoting our 850 millibar level. We are looking for areas of spin and or rotation. So as we run this forward, we will see our little area, our disturbance, and now we're starting to get some organization. Both models are calling for it to be developed at this point in time. We're out 5 days. And we don't really see a lot of spin or rotation or anything else associated anywhere else. Now we're out to day 7. Both of them have a very cohesive signal as far as our, quote unquote, Gabrielle at that point. But by the time that we are out to day 7, there is a large difference, and it will play a factor going forward. We have a very large and dynamic low pressure up here, kind of a land-based, cold core low. The low pressure on the Euro is located much further north. And as you can see, the GFS wants to drag this trough in like this, as to where the Euro does have it also like this, but it is nowhere near as strong as what the GFS is calling for. Therefore, our high pressure with the Euro may try to drift this a little bit further to the west as it is trying to get around the periphery of the high. We also have another little high pressure right here. The GFS, on the other hand, we have the high here and another broken part of the high here. It kind of stretches like this, kind of in a way. It kind of comes out and then comes back around. And this is coming, and as this portion of the high pressure weakens, this will turn up and out to sea. So as we continue to roll this forward, as you can see, there they go. Now, the Euro brings it much, much closer to Bermuda than what the GFS does. And that is all to do with that low pressure and its potential location, day 7, like we showed. So that is timing, strength of that, that is going to play a factor going forward. Another factor that we have, and this has been the major player of our basin this entire season, is our dry air, our humidity levels. Here we have, on the top, we have our 500 millibar level, and on the bottom we have our 700 millibar level. Those represent areas approximately 10,000 feet to 18,000 feet above the ocean surface. So approximately 2 to 3.5 miles above the ocean surface. We are looking for pockets of dry air and moist air. Now, our dry air is represented into the browns. Our moisture is represented into our greens. We have the Euro on the left and the GFS on the right. So as we run this forward, we will see that there is still plenty of upper level lows coming across the basin and dropping dry air and dragging dry air with it. As you can see, we're going to come out here to day 5. We do have a storm. We already have made that determination through the vorticity. We've got an area here on the 700 millibar level and an area here. Those show, like we do have a low pressure signal and a low pressure circulation. But also keep a look here. Look what happens when we come up to the 500 millibar level. We end up with a ton of dry air that is rotating in and getting into and trying to entrain towards the center of circulation. That dry air has been notorious for choking out storms all season long. So we're going to wait and see. That's why the National Hurricane Center has a 70% chance of development on it, and not saying that, yes, absolutely, this thing's going to fire off. We still have dry air to contend with. Now, there is a very likely chance that development is going to occur, and most of the models certainly agree that it will cycle out the dry air. But as we can also see, even when we run this out to say day 8, getting it out to day 9, day 10 even, this is the thing. We know we have our spot right here that we're currently watching on the National Hurricane Center Outlook. It's very easy to, kind of pick out and determine here. That's not the big thing. The big thing on top of that is this massive amount of dry air that still remains over the basin. And look at this. The Euro has a great amount of dry air into portions of the Caribbean. The GFS also has some dry air into portions of the Caribbean. Now, this would be huge. We also see a potential moisture surge coming up from the Eastern Pacific and maybe crossing over. Wouldn't necessarily be anything of tropical in nature, but it could be an increase in moisture. We don't have that signal here too much on the 700 millibar level, but we've got some signal on the euro. But also, please keep in mind that the GFS still has a northeastern curvature to that moisture flow, as to where the euro itself has a more north northwesterly flow of that tropical surge. So, and again, it's not necessarily organized, it's just where the moisture there in the low and mid levels exist. You would see elevated dew points, maybe an increase in afternoon shower and thunderstorm coverage. We don't see anything organized. Now, one of those factors is also our shear, and the shear has been quite impressive over the last few days because we have a low pressure here, we have a low here, we've got another little kink and what is trying to be another low pressure there. And all of these are propagating off to kind of the, I would say, west southwest in a way, if you wanted to give it a direction. And they've been working their way across the basin pretty much for the last quite a few weeks. And as we continue to run this forward, you will see these upper level lows existing. And depending on where the one of these upper level lows and this potential tropical cyclone is, we could see increased shear with interaction with the upper level low if they get too close. But regardless, some of these upper level lows have been helping to keep the high pressure a little bit lower in the atmosphere, kind of eroded back, and have allowed some of this East Coast troughing to also, kind of stay persistent. And it has really helped to increase some hostile conditions across the basin. As you can see, as we run this forward, there is going to continue to be quite a bit of shear across the tropical Atlantic on the euro, and definitely some outflow here associated with potential Gabrielle. As it propagates off to the west, you get this increased wind and wind shear kind of propagating off of it, and it would, as you could see, this is the main development region of the tropical Atlantic right here. But look at the less amount of shear that we have over here, and we're out 7 days. Now, we've got an upper level low here on the GFS that is helping to increase some of that shear here. But again, the Gulf stays hostile, but it's the Western Caribbean that might not stay hostile. And as I continue to run this forward, as you could see, the GFS really wants to put a large shear component. We got a big time trough digging in, and the euro also agrees with that. That really keeps the shear going across the Gulf. But if there was anything down here, like we may see here with the GFS, if there's any like disturbance, it doesn't have to be anything, just the plume of tropical moisture. If it's there, it's going to draw up and then potentially over. So again, doesn't necessarily have to be organized. It could just be an increase in shower and thunderstorm activity. Which I know for the folks here in southern Florida, you guys, I'm pretty sure you've had about enough rain now, and I know you would like to have a few days of drying out, no doubt about it. But it is the question, the real big question that I have going forward: do we see this low here that is creating a shear component across portions of the Caribbean, or do we see this high pressure and you don't have a lot of shear out here? Big question. And once we start to get towards that point, the 24th, if you can remember, the Euro AI you've got this shear component here. What happens when you get over here? You know, like you see the reduction in shear here, but then the increase in shear here. So we do not have corroboration on the models. We don't. And it's just something that we're going to have to watch. Our dust. Yeah, okay. Hey, y'all are the ones that said it, not me. I never, ever, ever tempt Mother Nature. And I'll show you why. And if we look at the dust model, as you can see, there will be areas of vorticity and spin. Most of them, they look like, at least on the NASA model here, do end up dragging a little bit of dust out with it. But then once it gets about past 40, then we got to hope on dry air from other sources, because the dust is not really going to be the big thing. And uh, Jonathan, I'm going to show you something. You don't want to see this. I only ran the AI out 10 days. But if you get something down here, there's 12. Tell me about it. We're not out of the woods, brother. It's all to do with the angle of approach and timing. And as you can see, right now, we've got some potential Madden-Julian oscillation enhancement coming. It is forecast to kind of fall back within the circle and kind of collapse. So that is a good thing. Just kind of come out, show its head, kind of like one of those little pop-up things that, whack-a-mole. That's it. It's going to stick its head up. We're going to whack it, and then it's going to drop its head back down. So that's really what we're in hopes for. As far as our area of low pressure off of the East Coast that is not talked about, as you can see, it has a frontal feature to it. So it is non-tropical. As you can see, that's the surface. 850, you see this band, that frontal feature. It would have to completely disconnect from the trough. And as you can see into the mid-levels, it's not going to happen. If we get into the upper levels, have plenty of shear. So, no. So it should remain as a non-tropical entity. We still have a lot of season to go, folks, and I can't stress this enough that we are definitely not done. We're somewhere in this range right here. So we have passed peak season by a couple days. That's give or take a line or two. I'm not going to sit there and count them out. When we get into the center of that thing, it's an absolute nightmare. But as you could see, we still have parts of the season that could be a threat. And the Global Tropics Hazards Outlook, we'll get a new update on this on Tuesday afternoon. Right now, it's a little on the stale side. But we will definitely get some updates here this upcoming Tuesday. The thing that concerns me is obviously our area in here. That's what concerns me. And then this, we'll get to that in a moment. There's one signal out there, especially from the deep mine, that just looks absolutely crazy. All right, jumping out to the Eastern Pacific. Sammy, yeah, but the only problem is that when you could tempt her, look, I'm sure we've got areas out there in the wide open parts of the water that, doesn't have everybody else participating in it. I don't want it. I don't want nothing to do with it. And to get to you, one of the rest of us have got to take it first, because you're way inland. Now, granted, if I end up with it, you got it first. So, all right, jumping out to the Eastern Pacific, we have Mario again, but Mario is not alone. Here in the Central Pacific, we have a 10% chance of development on this little area of vorticity embedded within the Intertropical Convergence Zone line. We also have a 40% chance of development over the next 7 days with that other wave that we were showing on the Google DeepMind model. And then, of course, we have Mario again, back from the dead. It's currently located at 18.9 north, 110.7 west, about 20 miles east northeast of Sirocco Island. That is a military island for and research island for Mexico. It's not inhabited by the general public, so there's nothing ever really issued for that. They're used to all of this. Maximum sustained winds are 45 miles an hour and moving west northwest at 7 miles an hour with a minimum central pressure of 1,003 millibars. There are no coastal watches or warnings in effect now, or will there ever be. And there are no hazards impacting or affecting land. As we can see with the forecast cone, it did redevelop. It is going to creep out here and get out here into the cooler sea surface temperatures and more stable air of the Eastern Pacific and then fall apart into a remnant low. If we take a look at the forecaster's discussion, we are not going to go through any of this. We're not going to pretty much read any of that. As we could see, it may get up to about 60 miles an hour, not necessarily anticipated to reach hurricane strength. And then as you could see here, 60 hours post-tropical, remnant low, and then completely dissipated by 4 days. Zombie storm, usually our zombie storms are, kind of persistent, but as you could see, back from the dead. If we take a look at our ensembles, this is the Euro Legacy. As you can see here, once we get it out to day 7, maybe it is not Mario. It is that next one where we could potentially see some threats here to the Baja Peninsula. So folks will definitely want to keep an eye on that one. Compare that to the Euro AI, not so much of a risk there, but still a few lines that do show a potential turn back to the northeast. If we compare that with the GEFS, there's a couple lines again, but not a clear, coherent signal that's saying that would. It would just be recommended for the folks there on the Baja Peninsula to just monitor things as we go forward. Nothing to get overly concerned about yet. Just make sure you check back. And getting out into the Western Pacific, we have Invest 98W. Now, Invest 98W, we're going to fly over here on Google DeepMind, and we're going to come forward, and the Google DeepMind doesn't have a lot on Invest 98W, but boy, does it really want to set this one off. So let's highlight this. And folks, we're talking about the potential for this thing with, if it has no land interactions, we're talking about the possibility of an absolute monster here. As you can see here with our intensity distributions, there is almost a 50-50 chance of, as long as it stays away from land, we're probably looking at the Western Pacific's first major hurricane. Obviously, they call them typhoons out there, and we're not necessarily looking at super typhoon strength, except for a few of those models. They do get it up to potentially that point. But if this thing has no land interaction with the Philippines, folks in China and points westward, southern China, ooh, watch out. I mean, this one is like, there's the possibility of this one getting just absolutely ridiculous. And this would be like, this particular model member wants to bring it way down, but has it awfully close to the northern shore of Luzon. So it's certainly one to keep an eye on, especially with that type of signal. And the Google DeepMind has been performing very well. And for this other cluster out here, for the fishes, as you can see. All right. that's about all I've got for tonight. When we get an area of invest on our spot out there into the Atlantic, we will definitely have more data. If we get a name storm, then we'll be able to pull even more data on top of that. But until we get some type of, classification, increased classification besides just an area of interest and a disturbance, uh, we got what we got with the models right now. So we'll be back again tomorrow night to go over anything, to see if anything changes, to see if that Euro AI wants to back off that potential Caribbean signal in the long range. We'll check in on Mario, see if Mario's making a run at hurricane strength. And we'll check our development percentages out there into the Eastern Pacific and the Atlantic. We'll see where we're at. Right now, it would be nice if we can get an area of interest or a invest tag on our spot out there into the Atlantic, but not yet. It's certainly not organized enough yet. So, all right, everybody, have a wonderful evening, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow night. We will be back live 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central here on Facebook and YouTube. So until then, have a great night, everybody. Bye.